Today I want to show you how to make animated digital signage using Keynote and animations with text and with Apple Shapes. You can have it make it look like the shapes coming on your screen are adding the text and taking it away. Whether it's clouds in the sky seeming to write the words to your announcement of upcoming concerts, or rubber ducks talking about a fun event coming up with information. Maybe it's an RV driving by, leaving information about an upcoming road trip, or a train swiftly going by revealing information of something coming soon, or even a sports theme where a football passes from left to right and gets tossed back from right to left to erase the text off the screen. All these are possible simply with Apple Shapes and text using Keynote on your Mac. Let's get to it. Here we have Keynote open on our Mac, and it brings us to our theme chooser. Inside here, it gives you a bunch of different themes you can choose from to start your presentation. We're going to choose one I have customized under my themes called Adventure, and if you like this one, there's a link to it in the description below. In here, we have just a title slide showing, so we're going to come over to the right-hand side, what's called our inspector, click on this drop-down, and we're going to choose the center text layout. This is our main text slide that we're going to use throughout our presentation. Then we're going to do a couple more things to help us moving forward. On the left side of the screen by the slide navigator, if we go over here and get these arrows to show up, we can drag this over so these slides are easier to see. That'll be helpful. And then go to View, Show Object List, because we're going to have more objects here in a minute. We'll come back onto our screen. This text is pretty good, but we want it to be higher on the screen. So we'll click on it and drag it up until the bottom of the text box triggers that yellow guideline, keeping it centered on the screen. Then we'll right click, choose duplicate, and we'll drag this down again, keeping it centered till the top of it creates that guideline there. The top will be our announcement, the event. The bottom is going to be our date and time information. So if we come over to the right side of the screen to our inspector again, click on text. Right now, our text box that is lower is selected. And so we're going to go over here and make this 64. You can just double click in that box, type it in, hit enter, and now it has made our details lighter. We're also going to come over here in the inspector and choose to make this top justified, keeping it centered. Now we'll click on our top text box, go over to the inspector, double click, and make that 96. Hit enter. Centered is good for that one. Now our basic slide is ready to go. Now we have to add some information, animation, some color, and shapes. So first of all, let's click on this slide. Because we're adding clouds, this would be a good one to add a gradient fill. So with the slide selected, but not a text box, so click until you don't see any of those lines or dots, come over here into your inspector for fill and choose Advanced Gradient Fill. You can click up here and it has different ones. Let's choose this light gradient. And then down here in the bottom, let's click on the actual color. I like the one that is called crayons. We'll scroll up here. We'll give it more of a turquoise bottom. Nice and bright. The top one here, we'll actually come over. It's set for sky, so that works for us. Now, if we look at our slide, we have more of the sky look than just that black background. We'll keep it white right now so the text kind of matches the clouds. You're free to come in later and customize and change fonts. We're keeping it like this just to make it simple for right now. Remember, with signage, it's really important that it's readable. So don't get too crazy with your fonts if you want people to be able to read the information, unless you're leaving it up there for a long time so they could have time to process what you have animated. This is our basic slide. So we'll double click on the top here. We're going to type Blue Sky Jazz Band. Then we'll double click on the bottom in this text box, and their concert is going to be February 17th at 7:30 p.m. Our basic slide is set up on here. Now we're going to need to add a shape and some animation. So come up on the top of the screen. This reminds me, come over to the left actually in Keynote to File, Save. This really should be one of the first things you do, but if you catch it, go in there. I like to keep mine in the Keynote file under iCloud. We're going to call this one Digital Signage. Save it. Okay, now we're good to go. Now come back over here in the center and go up top to shape, and it has a search bar here. We're going to type in cloud. We'll click on it and it brings this small cloud onto our screen. We're going to drag it up and then we'll drag a corner and make it big enough that it's very much going to cover and show the text we have. We don't want a blue cloud, so we'll come over here in the inspector. We'll choose style, and for color fill, we'll simply go down and choose white. And now our cloud is ready to go. We're going to also then right click on this cloud and choose duplicate, drag it down here, and then drag a corner to shrink the second cloud so that it is just a little bit bigger than the text we have. Okay, now the fun begins. On your screen, come up in the top left here to zoom and go all the way down to 25%. Probably haven't used that a whole lot. Here's why we're using it today. We're actually going to drag this cloud off of this screen and this one off the screen. Hopefully you're tracking so far. Now we'll come over here into our inspector. We'll choose animate, action instead of build, add an effect, and move. When you do that, it creates this little red line here, and this shows you before and after. We want this cloud to come all the way across the screen and then pass on. We'll do the same thing with this bottom cloud. We'll again come over here to our inspector, add an effect, move, then we'll come back down, click on that center square that's highlighted red, and drag it over here to the right. The great thing with using clouds, it doesn't matter if they go in an exact straight line. If that's important to you or it bothers of you if you don't, here's a little trick. While you're on this cloud, if you click on the red diamond here at the bottom, it shows you both clouds. So if you select the first cloud and come over to your inspector and go up to Format and Arrange, the Y is at 47. On the right cloud here, we can see it's at 85. We double click and make that one 47. Now our cloud will travel in an exact straight line across our slide. Same thing with the lower slide. Tap on the left cloud, click on that little red diamond at the bottom, click on this cloud. We can see in our inspector that our Y is at 562. So then we go down here, click on this cloud. We see that one is set for 553. So we'll double click and make it 562. Now both of our clouds will travel in a straight line across the screen. If we click on this top cloud, go over here to our inspector, choose animate and preview, that cloud goes really fast across the screen. So we're going to go in the inspector on the right-hand side here, and we're going to slow this down. It's a cloud, not a plane. So let's make this 4 seconds and see how that looks. We'll click preview. That's actually pretty good. You could speed it up a little bit if you wanted to, or slow it down. Depends on what you want it to look like or more dramatic. So now we'll go down here to our lower cloud and we'll set it for about the same. Go back to the inspector, double click in here. We'll set that one for 4 seconds. So we need to raise this up a little bit. So we'll take our cloud and we'll drag it up. So then we'll go over here to Format, Arrange. Now we're at 520 for the Y. We'll go back over here, click on the lower cloud on the right and change that from 562 to 520. Now if we click Animate and preview, our lower cloud goes right over that text. Very, very important. Okay, so now we have clouds that are animated, but that doesn't help us out with the text itself. Click on the text, go over here to the inspector to animate. We're going to choose build in. We're going to go down and choose wipe. For time, we're going to start this at 3 seconds, and we'll do the same thing with our bottom information, our date and time. We'll click on that text box, go over here, animate, build in. We'll choose wipe from our recent effects. We'll make this one 3 seconds. Okay, so now you have your slide background, you have 2 shapes and 2 text boxes that all have to animate. This little bottom button here, build order, this is where everything comes together. When you click on that, somewhere on your screen, this little window will show up. This allows us to work through everything in the orders and how fast they go. So we'll zoom out a bit here. Our cloud's the first thing. We want this to go automatically. So on the bottom here, we'll change it from on click to after transition. Basically, that means as soon as the slide comes on the screen, that cloud's going to animate across. As the cloud is going across, we want the words to show up as if the clouds left those letters behind them. So in our build order, we'll click on Blue Sky Jazz Band and we'll drag this up right on top of where it says cloud. And if you look at the bottom here, it says after build 1. We're going to change that to with build 1, but we're going to put a delay because our cloud is coming from off the screen. Our text is coming on the screen. Let's go ahead and set this for 0.5 and let's hit preview. Pretty good. If you watch that like me, there's 2 things that you noticed. One, the text starts to show up before the cloud comes across. So we need to increase our delay. So we'll set that to 1 second. And the text animated a little bit too slowly. So if we come over to the inspector, we'll bring this down to 2 seconds. Now we'll go back and preview it again. It doesn't always work that easy, but it's awesome when it does. If you see that again, your cloud comes across the screen, and as it moves across, it leaves behind the text, and you are all set for the event. Now we do the exact same thing for the bottom of the screen. We'll click on this cloud. We want to set it to be with build 1, but we're going to set this one with a delay of about half a second. And then for speed, it already is set the same speed the cloud was before. So we click on our text box here. We're going to go down here and click on with build 1. And we'll set a delay of 1 second. And then we'll go over to our inspector and we'll make this, it's small, so we'll actually make it 1.5 seconds. And now we'll hit preview and see how this looks. Big cloud comes across, animates the text. That text animated too soon. We need a longer delay. So we'll go over here. We'll try this with a 2-second delay. And that was too slow. So now we'll go back and make it 1.5. This is a lot of what you do is just kind of tweaking it to see how it works. That was a good start, but then it was too slow because how short it is. So now we'll go over into our inspector and we'll shrink the time down to 1 second. And we'll preview it again. It actually started a little bit too soon. So we're going to increase the delay to 1.75. Now let's see how that looks. This is a lot of times what you have to do with these kind of animations. Okay, it needs to be much faster. I think if we look at that again, it starts about the right time. It just goes too slowly. So while that text box is selected, we'll go over to the inspector. It seems kind of crazy, but we'll set this for half a second. We'll go back and preview. That worked perfectly. Now on our screen, that slide is ready to go. And you actually can go up here. And let's say we want to announce 3 events that are coming up. Over here in the slide navigator, we can right click on it, duplicate, right click, duplicate again. It's going to save you a lot of time later because you've already gone through all the work of making sure you know the animation speeds for the text and the shape. But we want to also have the cloud make these words disappear before bringing in the next announcement up. So before we change these next 2 slides, we'll click on this first one again, right click, duplicate, and we'll drag this over just a little bit till that blue line shows up to show hierarchy, that these 2 slides go together. Now, before we duplicate this slide at all, we're going to go edit it. So on this slide here, we want now that cloud to come across and this cloud to come across the same way it did, which is awesome. But this time we want the words to go away. We'll click on this text box. In our inspector, we want to pay attention to a couple things here. The speed is 2 seconds. If we look at that first slide again, there's a couple things we want to zoom in on. One is in our build order. We'll drag this up so you can see the whole thing. We have our cloud moving in after the transition is 0. The text is with build 1, 1 second delay. Then we looked in our inspector, it's a 2-second wipe from left to right. We're going to choose build out, add an effect, wipe. From left, we'll make this 2 seconds to match what we had before. Now, if we look at this in our inspector, it's with build 1, 1 second delay. So click on this wipe out, drag it up here until that little line, the dot shows above the cloud. From instead of after, change it to with build 1, make that 1 second, then click on that build in, and then hit your delete key. Now when we go over here to preview, the cloud should take away the text. Now we got to fix the bottom of the screen. We click on this text here at the bottom. Again, now we're going to go over and do a build out. If we look at the build in we have, this one is half a second. And if we look at the bottom of our build order, it's after build 3 with a 1.75 second delay. So this time we'll go over here, build out, add effect, wipe, shrink that down to half a second, come over here into our build order, drag it up so it's on top of that cloud. After build 3, 1.75 second delay. We'll click on that build in and delete it. We'll preview and see if everything is as it should be. It is not. Okay, time to see what's going on. All right, so that cloud didn't come in quick enough because it's set for after build 2 instead of with build 1. And then our text here should also be set to with build 1. Now we'll give it a preview. Everything goes away. Awesome. So come back into here. We now have a slide with a blank blue sky. Clouds come in and reveal text, and then a second slide where it goes away. So now we can right click on this one, duplicate, drag it down below the second slide, right click on that one, duplicate, drag it down below the 5th slide. Come back up here. This is where you want to update your information. So now we say that the concert is going to be an alternative band called Oxygen Mask. They are playing on May 30th. Theirs is a later show starting at 9:30 p.m. With your cursor in that box, come to the top of the screen and do Edit, Select All, then Edit Copy, because now you want to go down to that next slide. Click on that box, click inside there to where the cursor is blinking, then come up top, Edit, Select All, Edit, Paste. Go back up to that first slide, same thing. Click on that, your cursor is there. You can also triple click and it will select everything in that box. You can right click and choose copy. Now go over to that second slide in your set. Same thing again, click here, triple click, right click and choose paste. So now on that first slide, if we go over here and choose preview from our build order, we see a slight difference. Oxygen Mask is shorter. So we need to delay when that comes on the screen. So click on here on Oxygen Mask, and the build order, we'll delay that one by 1.5. Now we'll preview it. That one now needs to animate faster because it's shorter. So when you're making these digital signage, the longer your text is, the slower it can animate because it's waiting for that cloud to move all the way across. The shorter it is, it doesn't have that much space to animate. So we will go in here to our inspector. We'll bring this down to 1.5, and then we'll check that out and see how it does. Still a little bit too slow. So go up here and make it 1 second. Nice. That went really well. Okay. Keep that in mind now. We go over here. Remember that it animated on at 1 second. It's going to need to animate off at 1 second. Our subtext stayed the same. So we go over here to that slide, the second one in the set, and we click on the text here in our build inspector, our build order. We need to shrink this down to 1 second. Now we preview. It started too soon. Let's go back and look to that first slide. We click on Oxygen Mask with build 1.5 second delay. Our build out, click on that text box with build 1. We only had it set for a second, 1.5. Now, the cloud erases that one. Awesome. We just have one more set to do here. We'll triple click on that, which will select all the text. We'll have an EDM night, Northern Lights. Take that autocorrect off. This one's going to be a summer party, so we'll put it for July 21st. This is late. We're going to have this one starting at 10:45 p.m. Now, before we do anything else, let's preview and see how this looks. Cloud comes on. Animates both those things look really good. So we should be able then to triple click, right click, copy, come down here, click on that next slide, click on the text box, then triple click, right click, paste. Then again, go to that first slide in the set, click on that bottom text box. So click here, hold down, and we'll highlight all that text, copy, go over here to that second slide, again, back to the center. Same thing we did before, click and drag to highlight all of that, paste. Now let's watch the build out. Cloud should erase the text. Okay, this is a good point to remind you to go to the top of the screen if you haven't already and do File, Save, or the keyboard shortcut Command S. Now I want to make sure this all plays as digital signage. You have a few different options here. Let's say we simply have a computer set up with Keynote. We're going to play it straight from Keynote as our digital signage. Click on this slide here, come over into your inspector in the top right, Animate. This is now animating the slide, not the content on the slide. So all we're going to do, we'll keep it with none. We'll do start transition, not on click, but automatically. And we'll double click in here and make this 4 seconds. That should be enough time. Usually most digital signage, they should be able to read it within 4 seconds before you add the next slide on there. So that'll be good. But we have that second slide where it goes away. That one we're just going to have for 1 second to keep a break. So same thing, change on click to automatic, double click and make that 1 second. And then do the same thing for each of those slides. I'll actually give you a shortcut. Click on the third slide, hold the Command key down, and click on slide 5. That selects only those 2 slides, but both of them. Come over here to your inspector, choose automatic, double click, choose 4. They're not both set for that. Now do the same thing. Slide 4, hold on the Command key, slide 6. Come over here to your inspector, automatically, double click, make that 1. And now, in the top right here, click Document. These are controls for your entire presentation. Instead of presentation type being normal, we're going to choose self-playing. We're going to go up here to loop slideshow and check that box. There's more things you can customize, but let's have a look at what happens now. So we'll click on the first slide, and then we'll go up to the top and click play. It animates our slide, and then automatically after 4 seconds, the clouds come through and erase that information and bring up the next. Slight delay, so that way they get to see this information up there. This would be great before a concert, before a class, in a waiting area, where you just want to have some information up that's really general for people to see. And instead of having just text on a screen, clouds sliding by are a bit of an animation to get their attention and bring information up. There's even the curiosity factor of as that cloud goes by, what's it going to reveal? Is it going to hide the next one? And this information just loops for as many as you want. And again, add your text on there, test it out with preview, adjust it as you need to, and it will just keep looping until you stop it. Now, one of the great things about all of this is that these are simple Keynote settings. So if you're in here and you want to make this more of a nighttime event, so you can click on this slide, not so any text boxes show up, come over to your inspector and choose Format, go down to Background, Gradient Fill, and let's change this one to a darker blue, this one to a really dark blue, and now you have that same setup, but you can do more of a nighttime look. You could even go down to slide 2 now, and again, copy that same look, and then when you were to play this, you now have a darker sky with that information being revealed. For an evening event, this could be a really good fit for you to use for your presentation. You also have the option, of course, to click on the text box. We click on text. We can change the text color. Maybe we want it to be a bold red. Maybe we want different colors for the text in the top and bottom. You can change that to make it yours. Even with the shapes, that cloud, if we go over to style, currently it's set for just a white fill with no border. If you wanted to add a border to it, you could add a line around it to make it stand out more. Or you could even change the cloud. Maybe you want it to be a gray cloud passing by. Now when you play your presentation, all that is reflected. You now know how to customize it, how to make it your own, how to play it. So we'll come back here and we'll just change all that so that it matches the way it was before, because we're going to go to the top and do File, Export to Movie. Let's say you are working with a school or a business or a church that uses software like ProPresenter or something else where you want this to play and you want to make sure that all the animations are exactly right, that all the fonts are just right. You don't want to have any issues. You can come in here and customize this. There's a lot of things you can do in here. It's just a self-playing movie, and we will save this. I'm going to drop it in my movies folder called Digital Signage. It creates the movie file. And now if I were to go open up that video file, now this video, you can play in any other presentation software and all of your shapes and colors and fonts and details are there. The downside is this can't be edited. You'd have to edit your Keynote file and export it again as a video file to make any changes. But if you want to export your digital signage in a way that works real easily in other people's software, exporting it as a movie is a great way to go. In today's video, I've shown you how to create this digital signage with a sky-like background and clouds moving across your screen. Now, if you're a great DIY Keynote person, you now can take this with the text and whatever shape you want from this huge library of shapes on your Mac, and you can go through all of these, and whatever you want, it can move across the screen and reveal your text. If you're somebody who's like, hey, I like this, but I'm not good at DIY, like I need some kind of a template to go off of, in the description of the video is a link where you can purchase a file folder that has Keynote themes for all of the signage I showed you in the very beginning of the video. If you purchase that pack of Keynote themes, you can import these into your theme chooser and make digital signage every time with these already pre-set up. You get this one, which is the clouds theme. You also get the rubber ducks, which has a dynamic background that moves across. You also get the RV, where the truck moves across the screen and it reveals the text as it comes across. You can change the colors of the RV. Those are different shapes. And if you click on them, you can change the window color, the vehicle color. You also get this train, which is great when you have one long piece of text you want to put on the screen from left to right with the train moving across. it again comes off screen and then takes the text away. It also comes on there and reveals the text as it goes behind. You can change all of that. You can change the train color, the background. You can make it brighter or darker. Then the football one uses another technique with two different shapes. So the football actually travels on a path that is a line we have on the screen. So when it comes across the screen from left to right, it does a curved motion. It does two animate actions of both moving and rotating. And it does the same when it comes back to make this text disappear by moving and rotating and moving that out. And you get all of that built into that theme where you just come in here and double click, change out the text for what you want, and it's ready to go. You could even trade out that football for a baseball or a soccer ball, whatever you want to do. If DIY isn't your thing and you don't necessarily want to buy the pack and just fill in text there, you can also use the link in the description to fill out a form and just hire me to create your digital signage for you. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Leave me some feedback in the comments. Like always, like it if you like it, subscribe it if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.